Just doing an audio test. Please disregard. Test, 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 test. Yes, sir, we are good to go.
All right, thank you, John. Good evening, everyone. I will now call to order Apex Town Council regular scheduled meeting for Tuesday, October 26, 2021, and I would like to welcome those who have joined us by live stream. Before we move any further with the agenda tonight, I must do a roll call of council members. So council members, when I call your name, please respond with here. All right, Mayor Pro Tem Nicole Dozier.
Here.
Council Member Killingsworth.
Here.
Thank you. Council Member Gant.
Here.
All right. Council Member Stallings.
Here.
Thank you. And Council Member Mahaffey.
Here.
All right, great. We can proceed. We have full council. We'll move now to the invocation. And tonight, what I want to do is just talk about some key things real quick and move right into our Pledge of Allegiance. But I want to talk about hope, joy, peace, and love, and how we all have an opportunity to illuminate that in the community of Apex. As we continue to move as a council and all of those who are under the sound of my voice, we all can get involved with that, right? And with the council, it's decisions we make with wisdom that will continue to be a light for many people that need that hope, joy, peace, and love. And also remember, it'll be fine, as Councilman Mahaffey has in his screen today. It would always be fine. And let us remember that we have a unique opportunity to illuminate our uniqueness and making sure that we remain the peak of good living. So thank you very much for this time of invocation. So now we'll move to the Pledge of Allegiance, and if you would please post a flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. All right, so we have a pretty light agenda. We'll move right into the presentations. And the first presentation, one is, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Councilman Terry Mahaffey, presentation by Apex Public School Foundation. So Councilman Mahaffey.
Thank you, Mayor. So what we're here to talk about tonight is something that we're calling the Peak Star Award. And STAR, that stands for Staff, Teachers, Administration Recognition Award. So this is something that we're doing to recognize the excellent work done by, as the name implies, teachers, staff, administration, in order to keep our public schools operating. And I think as we learned in the past 2 years, everyone, I think we knew this before, but it's become especially apparent how vital our public schools are to the operation of our entire society. And what our staff here in Apex has done, basically able to reboot kind of our entire, society, the way it's worked with this pandemic and all that stuff. And we want to take a moment tonight to recognize some of the hard work that they've done, because these people, I mean, they are civil servants. They're serving our citizens, they're serving our taxpayers, and I think it's appropriate for us to take a moment and show our appreciation. And my hope, by the way, Mr. Mayor and everyone else, is that this is kind of a two-way thing. That we're taking a moment here to honor and to recognize the work done by the people working for our kids and for our citizens, but it's also an opportunity for us and for the public to learn more about the good work that goes on and all the work that goes on inside of our schools in order to make it operational. And it's a chance for us to hear about, to listen, to see some of the faces behind the names and the work that gets done. And we're doing this in partnership with the Apex Public School Foundation. And they're helping with the selection process, and they're a local nonprofit that does a lot of great work with our public schools. So that being said, I'd like to turn it over to the president of the Apex Public School Foundation right now for some more comments, Stephanie Mitchell.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. Like Mr. Mahaffey said, we are partnering with the town of Apex to recognize one Wake County Public School employee for their extraordinary work supporting the Apex school community. So this quarter's recipient was selected from an impressive group of school administrators and staff recognized by their peers for the APSF Summer Spotlight. So, and our first honoree ever is Mr. Terrell Olive. He received the most peer nominations of all who were recognized this summer. He is the custodian at Apex Elementary School. And I just wanted to share a couple of comments that were made about Mr. Olive. Mr. Olive works hard to keep the school building and grounds looking the best. He is willing to assist in anything that is needed. Mr. Olive is the bomb. He and the custodial team that he leads are so special to us at Apex Elementary. In my 5-year experience with him, I don't think I've ever seen anything but a smile on his face. His 2 partners follow his lead of positivity. Our custodians are the best. And so that was a lot of what was said by those that submitted his name, that he has a great smile, a great sense of humor, and he helps keep that school running. So I'd like to pass it to the principal at Apex Elementary, to Mrs. Kajia.
Thank you. I am so happy to be able to talk to you about the amazing Terrell Olive. As you mentioned, Stephanie, he serves as our head custodian. Mr. Olive has a work ethic second to none. He's dedicated and laser focused on providing a beautiful, safe, clean learning environment for students and staff. And the student experience is a top priority for Mr. Olive. And when I think of him, I think of Maya Angelou, when she said that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how they made you feel. And Mr. Olive just makes everybody feel so good. His kindness, his smile, his laugh, the relationships he builds with staff, students, and families are strong and positive. And as a leader in our building, he leads his team with compassion and high expectations. And he is just warm like sunshine. And our school is so blessed and honored to have him as a Cougar. Thank you.
Mr. Olive, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, I just wanted to thank the Apex Elementary School staff. I wasn't expecting to be recognized, but I just wanted to tell them thank you, and I'll continue to try my best and do the best I can.
Well, we appreciate what you do for our schools, so thank you so much.
Yes,
You're
thank you,
welcome.
Mr.
Thank
Olive.
you.
And I'd like to add, on behalf of the Apex Town Council, we appreciate so much the work that you're doing there at Apex Elementary. And I know it's been a big lift. And as a parent, my kids, they used to actually go to Apex Elementary, not anymore, but I can appreciate the amount of effort that's been put on your custodial staff and you in order to get this working, you know. And we found out how important in-school, in-person instruction is, and that's working because of your hard work and the work of your staff, and I appreciate that so much. So thank you. So if we get to unmute and give them a round of applause here.
Woo!
Thank you.
You're bomb, Miss Olive. You're bomb.
I just want to thank my custodian staff too. They helped me so much, and they keep me on my toes and keep me in line. And they do a great job also.
Yeah.
And Apex Elementary School has the best staff ever. Thank you.
That's right. And Mr. Mayor, I think usually this is the moment when in an in-person meeting for these kind of things, you'd come up, we'd hand you a plaque. Do we have the plaque, Mr. Mayor? We at least show them.
I don't have a plaque, but
there is a plaque.
See it? There it is right there. Nice.
Yeah. It's looking good. So yeah, an in-person meeting, come up, we'd give you the plaque, we'd shake hands, you know, we'd clap, we'd do the photos. Obviously, in a virtual setting, we're not able to do that today. But I would like to work with Ms. Caglia earlier. After the meeting offline, we can maybe arrange me and the mayor coming down to Apex Elementary sometime next week, do the in-person thing. Thank you in person. And again, thanks for all the hard work. And I think, you know, this moment to me just, I'm reflecting again on all that your staff had to do to make this in-person instruction work and how tough it was and how we adapted and how you guys were able to get this going this year. It's just amazing. It's worked out. I mean, there's been bumps in the road, but it's working and it's going pretty well. And that's a lot to you know, thank you for your efforts. So, Mr. Mayor, any other final comments?
No, just to echo what you said. I mean, there's a lot of things that goes on that we never really see. And I know I've walked into Apex Elementary many times and have been really met with that bright smile from Mr. Olive, and it actually knocked me out. I had to put sunglasses on. I mean, it's so bright. But you're an amazing man. I have the opportunity to meet your family here in my office, and I know where your heart is. And your son Isaiah, he's a great man. So I'm just happy for you and your family in this moment, and we celebrate with you. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
All right, we'll see you next week.
All righty. Thank you.
Thanks.
All righty. So I just want to thank Ms. Kajia and Ms. Mitchell for the presentation, and Councilman Mahaffey, well done. I think this is something, a start of something great, and we need to continue to do this. So thank you for taking the lead on it and moving us forward. All right. So we'll move now to the second presentation, and this is a presentation of an update on the town's customer assistance program presented tonight by Finance Director Vance Holloman.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. John gave me a tutorial earlier today on how to bring in my presentation. So I'm going to see if I can be successful with that. Okay, I think can y'all see that? Can you see the presentation materials?
Yes, I see a calendar. It looks great. Yeah.
Calendar.
Oh, you see a calendar?
I see a calendar. Yeah. Is that where you're starting with?
Yeah, I pulled up the presentation. Town of Apex Customer Assistant Program presentation.
No, it's a calendar displayed now.
Oh, I
See if I
think
can hop
John.
on your computer, Mr. Vance. I'm gonna see if I can remote into you real quick.
Okay, I'm
seconds.
sorry. Sorry about that.
That's quite all right. We'll get there. It'll be fine.
Oh, I went the wrong way to it. Took the wrong route to it. That is it, yeah. I took the wrong route. I went directly to it down on my bar as opposed to through the Teams. I apologize for that.
That's okay. We got it now. It looks good.
I'll remember that from now on. But I do want to give you an update as to where things stood at September 30, 2021. Let's see, I need to advance. Let's see, I'm not able to advance at this point. Oh, there we go. Okay. We look at our delinquent accounts, and we're also going to look a bit later at our accounts with payment plans. You see the delinquent amount right now, it has gone down. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is people are catching up on paying, and then also the payment plans themselves play a big role in that. But if you look at our number here, it's predominantly residential, 361 customers that are considered delinquent. And by delinquent, we mean they're subject to disconnection. As of September 30, they were subject to disconnection, not simply past due, but subject to disconnection. So 361, that is predominantly residential, 333 as opposed to 28 commercial accounts. The average balance is for those accounts, residential is over 900,000, about 400 for commercial. So altogether, we're just slightly under $900. But again, that 319,000 figure looks much better than we've been before. It's down quite a bit as a percentage of our charges in each fund. And I do believe we're making progress. I think maybe this slide alone, it may be a little deceiving as to how much progress we made, even though we have made quite a bit. What we'll look at next is we'll throw the payment plans in and see how that impacts things. Just slightly under 500 payment plans in total. The average balance for those in excess of $1,100. Within those payment plans, though, some people have fallen behind on those, and businesses have fallen behind on those. About 165 of those. The average balance for those, and that would make sense, that the folks with the larger balances are the ones more likely, perhaps, to fall behind on the payment plans. Average balance for the people who are behind is about $1,400. Folks that are current are slightly under $1,000. So we had 312 payment plans that are current. The amount due on those just a little over $300,000. Now, what I did here to try to give you an idea where we really stand compared to where we were when the cutoffs were reinstated is I took those payment plans that were current, and the payment plans that are past due, they'll already be included in those delinquent account numbers. But we take that and we combine that with the delinquent accounts and those amounts, and you see that we are down to about 673 customers. When you include when you take the delinquent accounts, then you include the payment plans, which are technically not delinquent, but that is the mechanism. We've not received all that money, I guess is what I'm saying here. So we're at a point that we have 673 customers that are either delinquent or they are current on their payment plans, giving us 673 customers. You compare that to where we stood at May 31, and between the two, we're down to about a third, just a little over a third of the number of customers. So again, our reduction is somewhat due to payment plans, but not in entirety. If you look at the amounts that are due, we are just slightly below half of that amount, and of course the average delinquency now it is a bit higher. The average delinquent account was just under $700 at May 31, and the folks who have not been able to cover that delinquency, they are larger accounts by their nature, an average of over $900. So I didn't feel a comparison of the delinquent accounts between two dates alone was appropriate or totally informative without bringing into account the fact that a number of those delinquent accounts have no longer considered delinquent because of the payment plans they've entered into. But again, if you take those two numbers and combine them, we have made a lot of progress since May 31, reducing the number of folks who are behind. If we look at our past due accounts, and again, these are numbers, just simply the numbers of folks who are behind on their bill at September 30. They're not yet to the point of being subject to disconnection. Probably about a 10 or so day period further into the month, by October 10 or 11. Had they not paid, they would be considered delinquent at that point. We make a comparison, the different funds. Of course, the general fund has all along been about the lowest total number based on the way we apply the payments. Payments are first applied to general, then water, sewer, then electric. So electric, of course, carries the largest. But if you look at those numbers as far as the percentages of charges that have been made during this period of time, they are significantly down about half as far as percentage of charges. If you look at the total, again, we're just a little over $1.5 million, almost $1.6 million past due accounts. By comparisons, at May 31, we were almost 2.3 million. So we have made progress in that. I think the assistance, of course, through the CAP program, and then as well as people who were able to pay. We had a number of people just pay their balances off in total. That has certainly helped our numbers. And then the number of people putting payment plans together. So between those three, we have made significant dents in both the delinquent account amounts and the past due amounts. We look at our summary of applications. 141 have been processed through September 30. 127 of those approved, 90% approval rate. Of those that did not get approved, 13 of those 14 were a situation where the income requirements were not met, and then one individual did not live in the town limits and was not eligible. The assistance given, just under $74,300. Average assistance approved. Now we set a max on that. I believe it was $606, and we are just below that at $585 for each one. So 127 customers have received, over $74,000 so far through the program, and that's working out to just under $600 per applicant so far. Look at who's getting the program, getting the awards. You'll see that the 0 to 100% of the poverty level, 86 of the approved applicants have come from that group. That's a little over 2/3 of the approvals. So folks with the lower incomes, 100% of poverty level or lower. And I put the amounts in there for the family of 4 income, what that would represent for a family of 4. And if you look at that again, it gives you a good feeling that the money's really getting to the folks that need it. I think there was concern at one time or questions raised about possibly including the people that were in excess of 150% of the poverty level. And if you look at that, there have been a total of 13 recipients that were the 151 to 200% groups. That's 13 or only 11% of the applications that have been approved have been for people in excess of 150% of the poverty level. We look at our budget. The program was started and budgeted $509,000 to make awards. So far, we've spent only a fraction of that, less than 15% of that so far. The eligibility determinations, we've budgeted just over $40,000 for those. If we look at what's been expended so far, we're a little under a quarter of the way through the combined budget. Again, about $83,000 has been spent in total between awards and administration, and that represents just a little over 15% of the amount we have available. If you have any questions, I'll leave this up if you want to go back to one of the slides, but if you just have general questions, I could end the program, whichever you prefer.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Holloman. We do have a question from Mayor Pro Tem Dozier.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Holloman. One of my questions is related to the people who were ineligible due to income. And if you know whether those folks were able to actually pay their bill or make a payment on it to keep their utilities going?
Well, I can research that and let you know that. Yes, ma'am.
I guess because my thoughts about that is, if we have money still available, but people are a little bit over the income range, but not able to pay, just wanted to raise that as a concern. That's all.
Yes, ma'am. I'll find out about that and get some information to the council.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Happy.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Holman, I'm not sure if you'd be the best person to ask this, but I'm curious if you've heard anything or know about just logistically, how has the process been working with Western Wake and our partners in terms of the program so far? Are there any changes we need to make, or is it kind of smooth so far? Is there any feedback kind of on the logistical end of it?
Well, I think things have gone well. There's a constant communication process between our staff and Western Wake on this. The number of applicants, we went into this, we really went into an uncharted area, and we had no idea, would we receive hundreds of applications or fewer. We've not turned out to have received that quite as many probably as we had anticipated we might receive at this point in time. So I think the handling of the applications has gone very smoothly, and I think again, the dedication of the Western Wake folks is certainly a big part of that. And also the fact that the application numbers maybe have not been as large as they could have been. It was just very difficult at that time to have any idea how many people were going to need that type of assistance or be eligible for that type of assistance. But I think things have gone well so far with the program.
Okay, Councilmember Gann.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Mr. Holman, it seemed like there was a pretty big improvement from May to now, but not as far as like the total amount that's still owed or withstanding. But I assume now that the applications are going to start to kind of tailor off as the the people who have applied have already applied. So do you foresee some kind of amount that we're gonna have to write off and figure out like if it's gonna require use of those funds or increase in the payments or whatever it is that will kind of to make up for that lost revenue?
Well, I think your observation about the applications, yes, you would reasonably expect that that people would have, if they knew about it and felt they qualified, you believe they would have tried by now. You look at the number of people who have gotten into payment plans, being, just under 500, even though some of them have, fallen a bit behind. But I mean, that's a large number when you compare that to the number of applicants we've had. It's, I believe, three to four times higher. So I certainly know what you're saying there. As far as the amount that may ultimately not be repaid, one thing I don't know necessarily that general fund appropriation would be the best way to cover that. I think the funds have done well this year, as the audit in a few weeks will reveal. I think they've done well, and continue to do well. Not as well as they could have, but I think they're still very strong. I calculated the debt coverage ratio the other day in the electric fund as part of the report, and it was still, even though we added debt service on the second revenue bond, it was still multiple times over. So we are still in good shape in that way. No fund has experienced any kind of cash flow difficulty. So I don't know that the decision would necessarily be that we need to, put this 500 or what's left of the 500,000 in to try to, cover for that. But certainly, if the council chose to do that, I believe you probably legally could. But I don't know that. It would just depend on what you elect to do with that. But typically the write-off process, it will occur later in June. So as we go through the spring, we'll have a better idea, of exactly how much of that there might be. There are some folks who have moved out, things of that nature. There were some write-offs that occurred at June of 21. Some part of that was probably incurred prior to the pandemic. It was not. Accounts were not being written off that had just been incurred in, say, May of 21. It went back essentially to amounts that had been incurred by June of 2020. So you had a few months there of the pandemic in there, and some small amounts may have been written off that way, though that number was not really all that out of line with prior years and was still relatively small. I think, again, when we get around to June, we'll have a better idea on that. But I can tell you that I believe the funds are still very sound financially. The two utility funds, especially, because the general fund is just a small part of their funds. But the other two funds are still very sound financially at this time. And I think, again, by June 30, we'll have a better idea of, where we stand as far as write-offs might go.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Holloman, just a couple more questions. Mayor Pro Tem Dozier.
Thank you, Mayor Gilbert. The other thing I was thinking of when you mentioned, Mr. Holloman, that there's still folks who have not applied, but we still have folks who owe. But also looking at income, someone's income being above these income ranges doesn't mean that they don't have financial struggle. So you could have someone that has, 400% of poverty or much more than that, but had medical debt, so that we are in a pandemic. So you could have a situation where someone's been, their income has not been changed related to COVID or, their work, but surely there's been a difference in their financial status because of medical debt, for example. And so I just want to raise that there could be people who are in financial need, but they still have income, but it's going out. I mean, you think about someone who has a significant health issue and goes in a hospital, just how much, if people are, are insured, they could be underinsured, or it just costs a lot. They're even someone outside of COVID that is in cancer treatment and what a copay or co-insurance or out-of-pocket expenses for someone could mean, that they have to pay that to continue to get their care, and they're trying to, balance everything. So I just wanted to lay that out there.
Yes, ma'am. Right now, the eligibility determinations are based solely on income. And it would take some changes to the guidelines to make it otherwise. If if the council did want to go in that direction, probably we would want to confer with Western Wake and see what ways of making that determination they would believe appropriate and feel they would be capable of doing based on the information they can obtain.
All right, Councilmember Mahaffey.
Thank you, Mayor. And I actually had some comments that kind of mirror what the Mayor Pro Tem was just saying. And I also had some questions to wrap it up. But my comments were along the same lines. I think as a council, we should think about there's other classes of people besides those who just straight have low income, who are in need, and people who suffer disability, people who have, as Mayor Pro Tem said, medical debt, have higher expenses that are offsetting the quote unquote higher income from someone who's at 200% or lower the poverty level. And I think if you look around at various assistance programs, you often see stuff like that, where there's, it's either if you're above a certain age and you're on a fixed income, if your Social Security payment happens to put you at, 201%, that's unfortunate. So I am interested in this program kind of, recurring and kind of being an ongoing program for Apex, not just a COVID thing. And I think it'd be appropriate, not right now, but in the future, maybe a future retreat or something to discuss what we can do in terms of, expanding the amount of eligibility as we expect the amount of people applying under these criteria to go down. And I guess the question I had, as long as you were here and we're talking about this, Vance, is in terms of if we're going to make this an ongoing program with some recurring funding, would it be appropriate to just continue to do like a general fund allocation every year for it, or should it come out of perhaps the Affordable Housing Fund? Is that sort of assistance, or is it something that would be more appropriately done at the utility fund level? Do you have an opinion on that if we were to do a recurring funding here?
Well, my understanding of the law in our state is it cannot come from the utility fund.
Oh, there you go.
The general fund, I think, is definitely the appropriate source of the money. The affordable housing, very much of that does come from the general fund. It would almost be like running it through another fund. And how would ask yourself, how directly does it relate to housing? I would think the general fund, it has the most resources, the most revenue streams. I think it would definitely be the most appropriate place to make the appropriation, from which to make the appropriation.
There isn't a special fund set up for this right now, is there? It's when they say the budget is $549,000, that's just earmarked in the general fund?
It is budgeted as a special appropriation within the general fund, similar to the way that maybe some assistance given to certain civic organizations already budgeted in that group. It's included in there.
All right, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, you have your hand up. Is that, you have a question? Oh, okay. All right, any other questions? If not, we will move on. Mr. Holloman, thank you so much for that report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council.
All right. We now move to our consent agenda. All consent agenda items are considered routine to be enacted by one motion with the adoption of the consent agenda and without discussion. If a council member requests discussion of an item, the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. And is there any recommended changes to the consent agenda? Looks like your volume is off there, sure.
I'm trying to weigh in, Mayor. Thank you. Sorry.
There you go.
I would like to pull consent item number 1 for some more discussion and have it as our new business item number 1, please.
Okay, so recommended pulling consent 1 and moving it to new business 1. All right, anything else? All right, with that recommended change, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve with the removal of consent agenda number 1.
All right, and move it to new business 1. Good. All right, is there a second?
Second, Mahaffey.
All right, thank you. All right, no further discussion. We'll vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. Mayor Pro Tem Dozier?
Aye.
Thank you. Council Member Killingsworth.
Aye.
Council Member Gant.
Aye.
Council Member Stallings.
Aye.
Council Member Mahaffey.
Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously. All right, we'll move now to setting up the regular meeting agenda. Are there any recommended changes before we move to approve the meeting agenda?
Motion
All right.
approved, Gant.
All right, motion approved, Gant, I'm sorry. Second?
Second, Dozier.
Second, Dozier. All right, any discussion? All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye, opposed no. Mayor Pro Tem Dozier.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Killingsworth.
Aye.
Councilmember Gant.
Aye.
Councilmember Stallings.
Aye.
All right, Councilmember Mahaffey.
Aye.
All right, we have a set meeting agenda. We'll move now to public forum. My understanding there are no items for that tonight, so we will close public forum and move to new business one. And yes.
Sorry if I interrupted. For new business one, I'm gonna actually ask Marty to respond to some of the questions that Ms. Stallings has.
Okay.
Did I move too
President.
quickly, Mayor?
Yeah, you're
I'm
good.
sorry.
Yeah, I was going to just read it out. Motion to approve master encroachment agreement with Google Fiber North Carolina LLC and authorize the town manager to execute the same. So I'll turn over to Councilmember Stallings right now for questions, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you. And basically what I've got, council colleagues, is just a few questions that residents had reached out to me about this item. And I wasn't able to get up with staff to get those questions answered. I know staff has been really busy over these past couple of days. And so basically I have about 5 or 6 questions that residents had asked of me. And so just on their behalf, I'm just going to ask them. And Mr. Stone, I think you may have them, but if it's okay, I'll just go through them one at a time, unless is there anything you would want to say before I just ask the questions, Mr. Stone?
No, you can go ahead through the questions. Unfortunately, I've looked at the questions and I don't know that I'm going to be able to provide a lot of clarity on some of those because some of them are really more business processes of Google and don't really involve the town of Apex. So just give a little background because I understand it appears a lot of people are very interested in getting Google in their neighborhood and having a different option for internet, which I fully understand. And we're not trying to do anything to impede that progress or impede that from happening. But what we are trying to do is put in a process that'd be very easy to do. And we've worked with Google on getting this in place so that they will give us a notification that they are going to be working in an area. And in turn, it will go through into our IDT and our technical review committee so that our staff members can look at where they're going to be locating, and we can ensure that our utilities and our infrastructure is safe and protected. So if you recall, I'm sure Mayor Gilbert may remember last year or so, there was an event on a Friday evening where I was attending, and all of a sudden I was gone because we had our elevated tanks were going dry due to a water line being hit while a company was putting a dry utility underneath US Highway 1, and they hit our line, and we had no awareness of it. So we're trying to be proactive so that we know that these things are going on in critical areas so that we can be a part of the solution, and be there when they're working to make sure our utilities are protected. So that's the purpose of this encroachment agreement that it's establishing. It just puts in a mechanism for them to provide us upfront notification, because without that being in place, we don't have, they could be working anywhere and we wouldn't necessarily know it. So that's the background on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and thank you. So if it's okay, I'm just going to go through the questions.
That's
and
fine, ma'am.
Just do the best you can, and just on behalf of the residents, at least they'll know that the questions have been asked, and we'll do our best in answering them or addressing them as best we can. So the first one was, given that AT&T has run fiber throughout much of the area, would Google be allowed to use the existing large access panels that AT&T has installed, or would Google have to dig up lawns and garden beds to install their own?
I would imagine that would be a private deal between two private companies. We would have no ability to dictate them utilizing someone else's equipment or infrastructure. So, could it possibly? Yes, but would it? I doubt it very seriously. They have their own means and ways of doing things. So unfortunately, you do have to go through the pain of getting it installed, which is, and there's limited space in the existing structures, and there's limited bandwidth and fiber even, right? So everybody wants their own. So that's where I would. I don't think so. I don't think they would be able to use each other's equipment.
Okay, thank you. And it sounds like some of the cables would be above ground and underground based on the encroachment agreement language. Is that your understanding?
Yes, some of the cables, most of the cables once they get in the neighborhood probably will be underground. But they could come and have some overhead in certain places, in which case that would require them to connect either our power poles or Duke's power poles if we're not around, but that requires a separate pole agreement.
Okay.
That is not covered by this particular agreement.
Okay. And one resident asked about 5G versus Google Fiber. Do you have any comments about that?
No, ma'am. That's out of my area of expertise.
Okay, thank you. A couple of residents had asked about the map that's attached on the agenda item. And some people said that they didn't think their neighborhood was included in the map that's shown. And so one person was asking, was there any kind of a needs assessment that had been done to try to determine the layout of the map at this point, to your knowledge?
No, ma'am. That map is totally put out by Google as a business proposition, right? So it's a proposed network, but I don't know how they make their business decisions on putting that map together.
Okay. And so do we have any idea of knowing if this is the first of other phases that Google would have for Apex? Because obviously the question is coming about having, equitable access for all or most people in Apex.
I do not know their future plans, but I imagine that they will expand their network in the neighborhoods just like the others. If they start the expansion, I imagine it will continue, but that would be totally their decision.
Okay, thank you. And just a couple more. Councilmember Gatton, did you want to say anything?
I had to follow up, but go ahead and finish your questions first.
Okay, all right, thank you. Let's see. A couple of other questions about the map. There's a notation of AF and DF on the map, and so residents were asking, could you clarify those terms, or do you?
That's Google's map, but I think AF means availability of fiber cable, so I think that's kind of where they are looking to put the cable. Again, that's not where it's actually located at this time, based on my understanding of the agreement, which it refers to that exhibit as a proposed network.
Okay.
And I'm not sure of their designations for sure.
Okay. Another question was, would the town be developing requirements such as uptown and battery backup?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And then in the encroachment agreement, there's discussion about notifying residents in the communities. And how we have had talk in the past about notifying owners versus notifying renters of properties. Is that important to include that language in the agreement? Any thoughts?
I think that we can look into that, but we can make sure internally that we do that, because once it comes into our system, that's how we're going to get notified, and then we can put the notification out to our residents.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Those are all the questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. And we have Councilman Gant, I think, was next.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so I had actually two follow-ups. Thank you for bringing this up, Councilman Member Stallings. One was, is this agreement very similar to what we had with AT&T? That's question one. And the other one is, I know with like cell phone towers, there was, at first when they went up back in the probably 90s, they only had like one antenna on them on the whole tower. And then I think laws changed. I think they were local laws in some cases that forced them to put multiple antennas on the same tower for different companies. And so I guess the question is there a mechanism like that for using multiple uses of the kind of the boxes, I guess?
I don't think so. That's again, that I think that's, you know, before we had, or before, if this encroachment doesn't get put in place, Google will still come to Apex and they will still be able to put their stuff in the right of way, and we just won't know anything. We just won't know where they are, because that's what's been happening. So we have no control over keeping them out. This just gives us a mechanism to kind of know when they're coming, if that makes sense.
And the AT&T question, is it similar to what we did with them?
I am not aware of the AT&T agreement in the past that was put in. Matter of fact, I'm not sure we even had an agreement when AT&T came in and put this. And I think this is the first agreement that we've had for dry utilities to put us on notice.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Mahaffey.
Thank you, Mayor. Marty, I wanted to ask you about microtrenching, because I thought it was interesting that microtrenching was specifically called out in this agreement. And I'm reading over it again. The first time I read it, it seems like they have to get permission from us to do this microtrenching thing. I don't know a whole lot about it. I just know if you search for Google Fiber, there's tons of articles about microtrenching and how it succeeded, and many times it didn't work out. And I'm wondering if you have any opinion about the viability of microtrenching, and if that's reflected in this agreement here, where they appear to need to get permission from us to do microtrenching.
Yes, sir. So that is directly in there because of my opinion of microtrenching. Microtrenching has its place, but as you all recall, we have a very big repaving project going on in lots of old neighborhoods in Apex right now. So what I wanted to prevent was having a just finished neighborhood. Matter of fact, I'm looking out my window watching them do my cul-de-sac right now because they're trying to finish up for the day on a repaving job. But what we did not want to happen was have these repaving just get laid down, fresh new blacktop, and then have Google come in and be able to go into a neighborhood and do microtrenching. Because what microtrenching is essentially, it's going between the edge of pavement and where the curb line is, and they basically route out a trench. That's it. So it's in the road. You right, imagine where the asphalt meets the curb and gutter, and they trench there, and then they trench across the road in multiple places to basically put in their fibers. It prevents them from having to be in people's yards sometimes. But what it does do is when they're done, they come back and patch all that, and it does not look very good. In an older neighborhood, so if it worked out from where they were coming in and could micro trench in a neighborhood that was going to be repaved in a month or 2 months, it would work out great. But if we just paid a whole lot of money to get something resurfaced, and then they come in micro trench next week, we're going to get phone calls because people get real excited over nice asphalt and repaving. They get real upset when it gets cut, and that's what we would be dealing with. And I went and looked at a few neighborhoods that had it done, and that's the reason we wanted to be at least made aware and be able to make a decision case by case if that's what they wanted to do. But in talking with them, they were aware of our concerns and said that there's, it works in some places and it doesn't work as well in others. And so they are aware of that and they're aware of that term. So I don't think that's going to prevent them from installing fiber in Apex and doing it efficiently and effectively.
And I guess as a follow-up, and I think you may have answered this, at a technical level, if you have a street that's micro-trenched and it goes across the street and it provides service to whoever, that doesn't prevent us repaving. It's not going to rip up the cable or anything. It's deep enough that we can still resurface without having to pull up the cable, or every time we repave, we're going to have to call them and tell them to fix it.
No, you should be able to resurface again. It's just a matter of if you drive through a neighborhood who has had micro trenching done, it will be very visible to you. The gap between the curb and the asphalt, you will see they fill it in kind of like with a caulk, if you will, And then every time they cross the road, you'll see black lines where they patch those trenches. And again, it has its place in some areas, and it works well. We wanted to make sure we are aware of that, where it's going, because of our paving, repaving exercise that we're going through right now, which, you know, it's a big effort. And we wanted to make sure we were looking at it all.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone. If there are no further questions or discussion, are you ready to move to a motion? I'll take one at a time. Mayor Pro Tem.
Sorry, Mayor, but I wanted to make sure that Mr. Ganton had mentioned something about this is similar to what we did with AT&T. And I did commit to looking through the historical information that I had to see if there's something in there. But what I do recall is that we had one of the reps from AT&T come to a council meeting, and we had this whole thing related to like, we're fiber ready. And so I think that we could, maybe there's some more information about fiber ready, and then what we did related to that. That's all that's challenging me. I don't know what year that was, but I'm happy to sort of go back and see what else I can find. But I just remember that presentation. So maybe we could do that with Google and, you know.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, anyone else? Discussion? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved, Gant.
All right, motion to approve Gant.
Second.
Second, Killingsworth. If there's no further discussion, we'll take a vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. Mayor Pro Tem Dozier.
Aye.
All right, Councilmember Killingsworth.
Aye.
Councilmember Gant.
Aye.
Councilmember Stallings.
Aye.
All right, Councilmember Mahaffey.
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. We now move to updates by Manager Crosby.
Good evening. I just wanted to really speak to the last week of visiting the different departments in the town, and just thank the employees for hosting me. So last week I had an opportunity to participate in defensive driving with the police department, which was very interesting. They have some videos of me that I'm hoping don't surface on the internet. Because it was challenging, a challenging experience. And so I appreciate sharing that experience with them on Friday. And then I also had an opportunity to visit the wastewater plant, which was very interesting to learn all about how we clean certain substances out of our system. And I was really surprised that it smelled better than I expected. And so that was really interesting. And I really had an opportunity to see a big old chocolate bowl of liquid that we turn into what we call, I think they're called environmental, I don't know what they're called. They found a pleasant name for them, but I have some sitting on my windowsill that I didn't know what they were when I first got here. And so now I've been educated, and they'll probably stay on my windowsill. And then I also had an opportunity to visit the electric department, and there's a video out there surfacing of me climbing a line pole, a utility pole, which was really fun. It was awkward at first, but it was really fun and a really good exercise. And I talked to my trainer the next day and asked him to incorporate that into my workout. But just the last week has been very interesting, and I'm really enjoying getting out and not only meeting our employees, but really having a good understanding of what they do on a day-to-day basis, and just, you know, how much they love working for the town of Apex, and that they're having a good experience, but then also developing an appreciation of the work that they do every day. And then earlier today, I had an opportunity to give out a Peak Performer Award to Alex and Jordan in the water department. And it was really about them helping and going above and beyond to help a resident who had a tree fall in front of their property. And not only did they remove the tree so that the resident was able to get out of their home and make it to a medical appointment, but came back the next day to help our waste, our yard waste department chop the tree up and remove it. And so that was not only an example of the work that they're doing to serve our residents, but how we're serving one another as team members. So I was really appreciative of that. And so I'll just stop there and just say thank you to our employees for hosting me and being patient with me. I know it's really interesting to see someone come out and disturb your workday as they're trying to figure out how to serve the community as well as they do every day. But I'm really appreciative of being able to have that experience. And those are my updates.
All right, well done. Great opportunity to get around. I just have one question. How many cones do we have to buy now from your driving? I'm just kidding.
It was really interesting because there was a question about me tearing up the vehicles and also being the person that signs off on replacing those vehicles. So I tried to be mindful of that as I did my driving experience. But I did kill a few cones, and so I'm sure I'll be signing off on something soon. Sean, sorry about that.
Well done, and well done to Allison Jordan and all the departments that were involved with you making your rounds. Councilman Gant, do you have additional?
Yeah, Ms. Crawley, I know we have some kind of maybe high profile openings. Are those public for the public too?
Yes. I'm sorry about that.
Okay,
And so,
just making sure.
Yes, the eagerly anticipated senior center will be opening on Monday. So we're very excited about that. And I think the community is too. We've had a soft opening. And so some of our residents have had the opportunity to enjoy the senior center over the last couple of weeks. And of course, folks that are early voting, so don't forget to vote. But for folks that are early voting, they've had an opportunity to experience the senior center as well. And then tomorrow we are reopening the depot. Our economic development department has relocated to the depot. And I went over early on when I first started with the town, and it's a beautiful facility. So I can't wait to see it with all of the furniture. I've learned that from Joanna, who's our economic development director, that it looks a little different from the last time I was there. So I'm eager to get over there and see that. And the last thing that I want to say that I failed to mention is that we had our ceremony for our chief of police last week, Jason Armstrong. So if folks haven't had an opportunity to see that, and the North Carolina Central Band, please go to our YouTube page to watch that, because that was definitely a treat for our community. And I'm sure folks who live downtown had an opportunity to hear the band play during that event last week. So I think I captured everything. Did I miss anything with the openings?
I think you covered it all. Yes.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so we'll move now to closed session and possible motion to go into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A5 to discuss the town's negotiate position with respect to acquisition of real properties. Is there a motion?
I make
So
a
moved.
motion to go into closed session.
All right, motion Stallings, second.
Second.
All right.
Yep.
All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye, opposed no. Mayor Pro Tem Dozier.
Aye.
All right, Councilmember Killingsworth.
Aye.
All right, Councilmember Gant.
Aye.
Councilmember Stallings.
Aye.
Councilmember Mahaffey.
Aye.
All right, unanimous. We move now to the closed session. There should be a separate link. We'll go to that and come back and close. Thank you. All right, everybody's back. Any further business before we close out? Hearing none. Thank y'all so much for your work tonight. Great meeting, and meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Night.